morning, ladies and gents. Casual Gaming Dad here. And you can see by the title of this video that it is not about gaming whatsoever. Not related to gaming at all. So if you're not interested, then please just click away. But I decided to talk about this subject because I made a pretty big decision, and I think it's a pretty important one for a number of reasons, and I'm going to talk about that. So without further ado, let's get started. So for those of you who don't know, or if you can't tell, I do drive a Tesla. I have a 2025 I love the car. I enjoy it immensely. It's the most enjoyable car I've ever had. It's the best car I've ever had. It's also the most expensive car I've ever had. It's a lot of things. But overall, the experience is overwhelmingly positive, is what I'd say, for me. And it's really made me learn to appreciate the driving experience a lot more, and cars in general. Now I find myself very interested more in cars and learning about them. I'm certainly not an expert like many people cars for years and years and years, but for the last couple of years, ever since I kind of into the EV world, it's really made me honestly, I really enjoy like driving now, and I'm someone who drives quite a bit, so that's a good thing. Very, very positive. Whereas before, it was more about just driving from point A to point B. So I'm buying full self-driving, and if you don't know, that's $8,000. You know, it's not a small purchase, and I have weighed a lot of the pros and cons, and I'm in a position where I'm able to do that, and I'll explain how I'm going to do that. I'm not going to just be paying it flat out just like that. I'm going to be financing it, but I want to go over why I'm buying it. The first, and I believe the most important reason, is functionality. And so back in late November, Tesla gave all customers a free trial, which they've done for the past, let me think. See, they did it in 24. They've done it for the last couple of years, right? So ever since I've owned a Tesla, and mine didn't expire until January 7th. This was version 14. Now, I have to say, version 14 is what converted me. It converted me to believing that this is a reality. This is going to happen. Autonomy is coming sooner than we think. You know, it absolutely is. And I've tried version 12, and I've tried version 13, even as recent as last year in March, when I first got this car. Because when you buy a new Tesla, for the last couple of years, they give you a free month of full self-driving, complimentary with the car. And even version 13, so just a few short months, I believe, before 14 came out, I had some concerns, some things I didn't like about it. You know, this guy's tailing me. Just go ahead already. Go ahead. You're good. All right, there we go. All is better. So, yeah, I think the first thing I think of with version 13 that I didn't like, that even in standard, because I ran, there's multiple modes you can use full self-driving in, and in standard mode, just the basic mode, you know, there's chill, there's standard, there's hurry, and then they added Mad Max now. But in standard mode, it would just get too close to cars. Like, it wouldn't really give you enough space so that if somebody like slammed the brakes, you know, you would have to respond very quickly. And while the car could probably do that, it made me uncomfortable, right? So I didn't really use it much after I tried it, and it did that a couple of times. Like, yeah, no thanks, you know. And then other people I knew bought Teslas, and they used the full self-driving, the 14, and even people I know that are typically critical, maybe a little more harsh, were impressed. I kept seeing this theme right? That 14 is it. It's a game changer, right? And the thing is that people have said the same thing about version 11, version 12, version 13. It's like making big improvements, and it certainly did. I have a neighbor that has owned full self-driving now for a few years, so he's really gotten to see a dramatic improvement. Although he does have a hardware 3 model, so he doesn't have 14. So he's been hearing about that from me, so that's kind of interesting. But needless to say, that is by far the most important reason why I even considered it. I don't think that anyone should consider it without trying 14 and getting yourself comfortable with that and seeing how good it is, because it is very, very good. It is, honestly, it's outstanding. It's excellent. It's not obviously not perfect. They still have to iron out some things, but I mean, it took me on 175-mile drives, 0 interventions. To and from work. I drove about 1,200 miles with it during that free trial period, and it would have been more if my camera behind the rearview mirror didn't get some residue buildup like almost immediately after I got the trial. So I had to wait 2 weeks to get a service appointment to get that taken care of, because it kept bothering me about the camera, which I understand. It needs that people to see correctly, and so it would have been more, but that was enough to convince me. Okay, 1,200 miles is pretty good, on FSD. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I wanted to consider was, of course, does it make sense? Does it make sense for me, right? So I've been living in the home that my wife and I live in with our family now for it'll be 14 years in March, and I have never had a job that wasn't at least a 30-minute drive. My current one is 45 to 50 minutes. That's very typical. I would say 50 minutes. Sometime the other day there was traffic, it took me an hour. If there was 0 traffic, so if we have some events sometimes, and if I'm out late, I come home at, like, let's say 10 p.m., then it's closer to 33, 34 minutes, right? So when there's like no one on the roads, it's very quick. I have multiple routes I can take to get to work, which is kind of nice, but some of them are much more energy hungry, or would cost more gas, and they're more miles. So the quickest way on a regular basis is the freeway, but it takes the long way around. So it's an extra 7 miles each way. So that's 14 miles. So you do the math there times 50 weeks, because we're closed for a couple weeks, right? I mean, you're talking 5,000 more miles out in the car. Like, that's not worth it for about 6 to 7 minutes, shaving that time off. So I typically take the path that has the least amount of miles, which is 24 miles, right? And so I drive a lot. I'm in the car a lot every day, 1.5 to 2 hours, and sometimes more, because I have to drive to different locations for work at times. So it's not that uncommon, and I've got family, that is about a few hour drive from me, right? Which I do that a couple times a year. I mean, there's a number of things. A lot of times when we drive for longer distances, I drive because I like driving, and also because, it's an EV. It makes more sense. It's cheaper than gas, right? Well, gas prices are not that bad right now. They've gotten better, but, still not cheap, compared to other parts of the country. But I'm rambling. So I think it has to make sense for you, right? And I think for me, I drive a lot, and I used the trial a lot, going to and from work to see how I liked it, and I like it. It does it very well, very, very well. I didn't have really any issues. I think like one or two times it did something kind of strange, and I just ended ended up taking over. But yeah, so there's that. That's the second reason. The third reason I would say is because we're no longer going to be able to, which prompted me at this time, but I've actually talked about this with other people, and just kind of happened recently where, Elon announced that they're going to cancel the outright purchases. At their most recent earnings call, actually yesterday, they finally gave us some numbers on FSD. Apparently there's about 1.1 million people who have FSD. About 70% of them are outright purchases. So there's not a lot of subscriptions. Obviously, that's a very common business model. Elon's $1 trillion package needs 10 million people subscribed, right? So it's not surprising to see them go in this direction. It was going to happen at some point. It also makes them have to commit to a number of different things, because people who have hardware 3 that bought full self-driving, they already stated that they will upgrade those people to the most pertinent hardware, which they believe will be hardware 4 in this case, for free, because they paid for it, and it's clear that hardware 3 is just not quite there. It's not going to be able to do it unsupervised. So, but with time, that's going to be a very costly endeavor for them, and it's going to take a lot of time. I'm sure service centers are going to be just so busy once that starts happening. But first, they got to solve autonomy. They got to solve autonomy first. So they're working on that, obviously, and they're getting close. They're not that far off. I don't know if it's months, years, plural. I don't know. I mean, I tend to think it'll be. It's not going to be this year. They're pushing the robo-taxis and the cyber cabs now. They're going to be implementing that a lot more this year. I have no doubt about that. But the unsupervised, not quite yet. But it is. It could be next year. It could be the year after. I mean, even a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. That's not that far away. So they are stopping the purchases as of February 14th of this year. And so that's what really prompted me to think about this and decide whether it's worth it. I am someone who likes to save money and get the most value. And I thought, am I going to keep this car? Yes, I actually would really like to keep this car. I have a 22-year-old who drives. I have a 10-year-old who will be driving at some point. She loves the car. It's going to be great first car for her eventually. If I have the car then, which I would plan to, it'd probably have 100,000+ miles, and it's not a bad first car, right? So there's that. Right, and I'm definitely gonna use it. It is $8,000. I'm not gonna pay $8,000 though. I applied for a credit card that has the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited card. I applied for that, and it has a $750 cashback offer when you spend $6,000 or more in the first 3 months. Obviously, it's gonna cost $8,000, so that'll automatically qualify it for that. So I'll get $750 off there. It also has 1.5% cash back. So that's another $120 that adds there. I also have about $220 in referral credits left from someone I know that used my referral code last year. So there's another $220. So that's about $1,100 off the price. So that definitely helps, right? So if you do the math there, it's a little under 6 years for me to recoup the money if you compare right now the $99 subscription compared to that. Although it's very likely, and I mean, Elon even said it on X recently, I'm fairly certain that as full self-driving gets better, that the price of the subscription will go up. It will change. And that's not surprising. It used to be $200 in the past, and they changed it to $99 because clearly weren't people doing it. So I do think that it'll be worth it in the long run. I'm going to use it. I drive a lot. I think it's going to make the car more valuable than, I think even right now, if you take 2 cars side by side, identical cars essentially, and one has FSD and one doesn't, I believe saw a content creator that gathered some information about that, and he said that it's worth about like $2,000 more, which is obviously not equivalent to 8,000. But I think since you won't be able to buy it anymore, we all know how the human mind works. People can't get something, all of a sudden it becomes more valuable, right? So will it be $8,000 more valuable? Probably not, but it'll be more. Might be more like 4,000, 5,000. I don't know. We'll see with time. If it becomes that good, if it becomes unsupervised, then that'll probably just make it even more valuable, right? So, needless to say, I think that it makes a lot of sense. I understand that 8,000 is a lot, but the credit card that I'm getting also, another 2 reasons why I got it, $0 annual fee. $0, so no annual fees. So if I decide to, not really use it very much in the future, then I'm not incurring a cost to keep it. And it also has 0% financing for 12 months. So I'm not paying to pay it all at once. I mean, I technically am with the credit card, but I will finance it. I will pay it off over the course of the rest of the year, which, I can afford to do. Now, Casual Gaming Dad, why don't you just take that money and invest it? Oh, glad you asked, right? Definitely a very respectable consideration. I am a long-term investor, and so for me, I do like that idea, and I definitely thought about it. But here's my thought process around that. If that was the case, then at what point, there has to be some balance in your life, okay? So if that were the case, why would I ever go take my family on a vacation? Why would I buy, just stuff that isn't really that important, which everyone does from time to time. Some things we want, like a collectible, a game, whatever, you could argue that the same thing for something like that. So you have to pick and choose what you believe it is that you need. Are you going to get real use case out of it? In this case, I am. Am I keeping this car? Yes. Am I for the long haul? I really do think we will. Even if I get myself another car, which it may be a Tesla again. I do like these cars quite a bit, but we'll see. There might be better options in the future, other options, right? But definitely going to keep it. Definitely going to use it a lot. And so I think it makes sense, right? And I think the product is really good. I think the value case proposition is very good. So essentially, I'm making a speculative bet that it's going to be worth my time. Is it going to make me money? No. It's something I get to use, though. Something I get to use. So the consideration is take the 8,000, invest it, and just pay the subscription, right? Yeah, but then the issue with that is that I inevitably get stuck with that subscription indefinitely, right? Whereas I have the opportunity to not have to pay the subscription, right? So I do think it's going to make cars with FSD more valuable. And I also think that even though Tesla is ending free transfers to new cars starting on March 31st, I don't think that is a permanent change. I think that the subscription change, I do believe that is most likely permanent. I do. I don't think I see any reason for them to go back to doing it. I think that the subscription is it generates more revenue. Ongoing revenue is more valuable than upfront revenue, generally speaking, and that's just very common in the world today. But I don't think the free transfers is done. So I think that in the future, there may even be an opportunity if I wanted to swap this car out, right? Or just get another car, I could transfer the full self-driving, right? So I think that will happen because there's still a lot of people with older models, and I think that Tesla would prefer them to transfer it to a newer car so they don't have to upgrade those cars, right? Because they only agreed to upgrade the cars, the Hardware 3 models that have the FSD. So I think and plus they get to sell them a new car. So I think that is most likely what's going to happen. But even if it doesn't, I'm very happy this car. My only minor, I don't want to say regret because it just wasn't available at the time, but is that the newer models, like the newer Model Y and the newer Model 3, which they updated here this past fall, do have the front bumper camera. And I hope that someone comes up with some kind of a retrofit of some sort, because man, I'd really like that camera. I think eventually that will probably be integrated in some way into FSD, maybe not, but I would really like to have that, and I would be willing to pay for that upgrade, maybe upwards of like $1,000, but anyways, that's neither here nor there at the moment. It's not relevant, it's not needed at the time. So those are my thoughts. I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think people should be scrambling to try and buy this. I don't think so. I think you have to consider all the things that I've said, right? And what makes the most sense for you. And I think for me, I'm in a position where financially, my wife and I both work. I'm able to afford splitting this up over 12 months and paying it. And yeah, I know not everyone can do that, and that's okay. I'm not rich by any means, but I've been in the workforce for 25 years, and so I've gotten to a place where I've got a lot of higher education. I've gotten to a place where I make enough money to be able to afford something like that. It's essentially is, instead of investing that $500-600 a month, which I invest more than that every month, but I'm going to take some of that investment every month and pay off for the next 10-11 months into that. And once that's done, that money will continue to flow back into investments, long-term investments, right? Which I think everyone should do, but I'm not gonna. That's a different topic, Okay. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you've listened this far, and you like the content, please leave me a comment. What do you think about the FSD purchase? Do you think it's worth it? Would you do it? Would you do something different with that money? Let me know. I'd love to hear it. But I think for me, this is the correct decision, and I'm going to be doing it here very shortly once I receive approval for the credit card, which I do expect the next day or two. Okay. Well, have a good one. Take care for now. Bye bye.